Jerry Rice is number 3 on the list because he has more receiving yards, more receptions, more touchdowns than anyone else. I mean, the question is, why isn't he number 1 on the list? Because he has all those accolades, and they're to such a degree that really no one's threatening to catch him. And this is a guy who retired from the 49ers at age 38 in the year 2000, and you think, oh, he's done. I mean, that's the end of his career. After that, he had something like 3,600 yards and 21 touchdowns, and made the Pro Bowl as a 40-year-old. So he had a career post 49ers that most NFL players would die for. I mean, he is just all about sustainability. One of the best Jerry Rice stories occurs in 1997. He tears his ACL in week 1. And usually when that happens, you don't see the guy again until week 1 the following year. He took it as sort of an affront, like, I'm not going to let this ACL slow me down, to the point where he had back then I think that they put a hard cast on the knee, and he took a hacksaw and sawed off the cast, and he was back by week 15. I think it just shows just how single-minded, how willful he was, and he wasn't going to let this or a cornerback slow him down. Jerry Rice in 1990 had a game in Atlanta. They're still playing in Fulton County Stadium. I believe he had 13 catches for 225 yards and 5 touchdowns. So that's probably the most prolific game he had. He was great in every Super Bowl he was in. He was 3-0 in the Super Bowl. He didn't have a Super Bowl in which he finished with fewer than 145 yards. So on the biggest stages, Jerry Rice always rose to the occasion. One thing that the average fan might not know about Jerry Rice is when he was in college at Mississippi Valley State, he was very particular about his uniform. And he wasn't quite happy with how the equipment staff washed his uniform. It wasn't quite crisp and white enough for him. So he would take his own laundry home and scrub his laundry so that he would come out and shine on the team, because he said he couldn't perform like Jerry Rice unless he was in that crisp white uniform. So he had to have the right gloves, the right towel. He was very particular about what he wore. Bill Walsh, during a game against the Saints, he was watching from his hotel room on a Saturday night, college game, and Mississippi Valley State was on TV. And Jerry Rice stood out to him to the point where Bill Walsh watched that game. He called up the offensive coordinator, he called the GM into his hotel room and said, look at this guy, I want to draft this guy in the following draft, and that's exactly what happened. Jerry Rice was supremely confident. He was extremely aggressive. He had wonderful eyes that he could track the ball. His eyes were so good he could tell the rotation of the ball as it was descending into his hand. So when they switched to Steve Young, who was a left-handed quarterback, that threw Jerry Rice for a minute, because he's so accustomed to being thrown a ball a certain way from Joe Montana. He can see the rotation on these balls that he had to do a bit of an adjustment to Steve Young. But that's just how fine-tuned he was to everything that was going on around him. There was no sort of hiccups. He was very steady as he was running down the field, and he was excellent after the catch too. I mean, he was a complete wide receiver.